Hello, everybody. What's going on? Welcome back.
What's happening?
Podcast and chill. My main man,
Podcast
brother.
never heard of.
Until the best podcast you never heard of until now. My main man, my co-host, Christopher Bernard, the Alchemic Way. Good.
And Neil Quinto of Neil Quinto Media, soon to be established, coming soon to a internet near you.
Yes.
Always looking fresh too. Like it just. I think a minute to say like.
Stop with the encouragement because I keep cutting my hair now. Like I'm gonna cut it every week.
You are like.
I'll never not look like. I never. I've never looked behind.
Looking fresh, man. I look fresh. I feel like you weren't in quarantine. I mean, I know you were.
My mind's not in quarantine anymore. I'll tell you, I'm ready to go back. So
yeah, okay. We'll get to that.
Okay, so tell us what's going on with you.
Doing some writing, and as I said, I've been busy. I've been really busy digging into a host of scripts that I guess have been sitting on my hard drive and waiting for me to have the time to go back and do rewrites. So I have,
right on.
And before the lockdown happened, I was part of a online writing group. Actually, it was an offline writing group. It was a person of color for people that are bi, LGBT, all communities coming together, basically to challenge the diversity that sort of the industry has kind of shied away from, right? So a lot of people that are looking to have more representation of their distinct group have come together to form this group, and they're focusing on kids TV. And as you know, I'm a dad, so I was just like, yeah, let's do this. And again, I joined before this lockdown, right? So was to go a couple times a week and do this thing. But now that the format has changed online, they're able to do a lot more content, have a lot more guest lectures come in. We just had a lady that worked on Animaniacs. It was amazing. She gave some really cool advice. Ollie and Moon. I mean, these are shows that I'm watching with my kids, right? So when they come in and they're like, "Hey, this is what we're," they just give a lecture on stuff, and it's just been really, really cool to learn from all these really great writers and showrunners. Again, what I didn't consider is like, okay, trying to put together like these two kid shows and trying to raise like, I mean, a lot of content, which is really cool. So I get to do the homework kind of, right there as I'm, doing the dad thing, doing the fatherhood thing. But when it comes to actually sitting down and writing, it's like, shit, I'm way too tired.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
The thing that gives you the legitimacy is like also what's making you tired.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I'm trying to be like this super overachiever and get a whole bunch of content just like done. And I'm like, I can't do that. I'm way too tired. My brain is just, I don't know, it's fog.
Can you share kind of information like that's discussed? Are they tips on how to create a show?
Yes, it is to write a pilot script for a kid's show.
Okay.
But they give so much insider advice, stuff like, it's centered around kids programming, and each age group has a distinct sort of criteria that you have to meet, and basically learning how kids TV is programmed and what content is appropriate for what age and how to write to that content. And so what's really cool is that the curriculum, like you learn about curriculum-based TV shows versus like a SpongeBob where you're just having fun and like why things are popular and why things aren't. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, and it's just amazing to look at it in a different light. To go, I mean, you watch these kid shows and you're just thinking this is just silly. Like anybody can do this,
Right.
and then you can, but there's a lot of intricacies to all of it and how it all works together. And even like the other side of the mandate of the group is to bring out the diversity that isn't represented on screen. So I get to hear about sort of the trials and tribulations of that and trying to get kids it seems it's silly, but it's like, yeah, there's a lot of diversity in kids content.
Okay, right.
But there is, you know what I mean? So
Can you give some examples? Two things. We'll go backwards. Diversity, and then it's seemingly anybody could do it, but like there's actual intention behind that, like a SpongeBob, let's say, right?
exactly.
So
Exactly.
Can you share those 2 points?
Um,
Where's the diversity? Where's the intentional diversity in kids' content and cartoons?
well, because kids, there's a play with how markets perform. Well, actually, you know what? The easiest example would be Sesame Street, right? So,
Okay. Yeah.
like you and I grew up on Sesame Street.
Right.
Sesame Street is still like a brand name, right? Like
Yeah.
actually this course has forced me to see Sesame Street as a brand and how they kind of create content. So, for example,
Right.
In Israel, they just decided to offer Sesame Street, and it doesn't translate exactly. There's a different approach the writers have to take to bring like Big Bird or Elmo over to kids in Israel so that they understand. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, and you can think this is how those kids got their start in life, and then. I'm thinking, oh, so that's how there's this huge disconnect. Because you'd think a kid's show would just appeal to kids all over the world, but
everywhere, right?
But to teach a kid social, emotional responses, appropriate responses through Sesame Street has to be tailored to a specific audience in Israel. What? That's insane! Like, what? But the push to do that is so that there is more conversation in later years because those kids, that generation, now can say we grew up on Sesame Street too. So there's now a commonality. Whereas, like, like Osama bin Laden, he didn't have Sesame Street. So him and George Bush couldn't connect on that level, on that social emotional level.
Yeah.
So it's like
we underestimate the impact on future.
Exactly. And that was the whole mandate to go, okay, we got to open up Sesame Street to different parts of the world so that kids can connect. And when they have that foundation, like, yeah, you can see how the world will change now that, children are the future. It's like, okay, I get it. It's really cool.
And I mean, I suppose as an actual literal or examples that you can actually see, you have Hispanic actors, you have Black actors, Caucasian actors, Asian or half Asian. I think like it was the store owner is like half Japanese or something like that. So that's how they push diversity, right?
Well, you would think so. A lot of
not it. That's wow. Okay.
Well, specifically animation. Actually,
okay, right.
Yeah. The writers' room. So a lot of writers of color generally aren't in these rooms, even though the character might be somebody of color, right? So these kid shows that have 1 or 2 seasons, whatever, that has like the ethnic character may not be voiced by somebody who's ethnic, or may not be written from somebody who's ethnic. So it's kind of like, oh no, but a lot of people don't think about that. So it's kind of like that's where the diversity is lacking. I mean, kids watching it wouldn't know that. Yeah, this person looks ethnic, but it's actually being voiced by somebody who's Caucasian, right? So it's kind of like, what, you know? But
Wow. Okay, the irony, right?
yeah,
It's like when I complain all the time about they grab actors who are not even from, there's preference, it seems, to go to actors that are not from America to play American actors.
yes, yeah, they got the Aussies. They come in with their accent.
The Brits,
Right?
Aussies, like even like the Welsh and Scottish, Irish.
Yeah,
Why they're taking roles from American characters, and you're like, well, what's this about?
yeah,
So in the actual animation, the character may portray some ethnicity, but it would be played predominantly by a Caucasian actor or some voice actor.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. No. That breaking barriers. You can see
Absolutely.
there's an irony to that, and including writers. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Especially writers.
It's an interesting thing because the example I was given was like, so let's say a production company, a big, huge production company, big budget that says, okay, this is the show. I want you to hire 8 writers and that are really good, or that's the mandate. I want you to hire somebody who's ethnic and make sure they're in the room. But as it comes down to the level of the person doing the actual hiring, which isn't the studio,
Okay.
that person generally wants to work with their friends, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I know you work well with me, and
Right.
you get it.
Take direction and
Yeah.
that's why I guess even in movies, in franchises, you see recurring, like directors seem to work with the same people all the time.
Yeah. It's like but here's the thing: if you had the opportunity to work with your friend,
Okay. Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, I get it. Like, we got millions on the line here.
Yeah.
My ass is, on the line to deliver this product that's supposed to be making money, and I got to depend on people that are going to deliver. Am I going to go with this unknown person of ethnicity, or am I going to go with a friend?
But it's so formulaic, and sometimes you just get tired of Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. You know what I mean? Or like, I get fed up with what's the big one? Iron Man director.
Oh, Jon Favreau.
Favreau and Vince Vaughn. Like I think of the combos. It's Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. No, what's his brother's name?
It is.
No, it is Owen Wilson, not Luke.
Right, that's right.
You typically see these combos, and it's like, okay, the true actor, the ones that can make me forget that it's the same guy playing a different role, because sometimes the star is bigger than the role, and then I'm always seeing, when they say Adam Sandler's the same guy in every single movie.
Yeah.
But for me, like a Leo or a Denzel, I don't feel that way. Maybe Gerard Butler. What's the other one from Hangover?
Oh,
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper.
Like I can watch him, but that's a very subjective thing. But that would be my metric. If you can cross over, play different roles, and it doesn't make me think of, a previous role or previous lines that stick out.
Yeah. It's funny too when there's some things that like Denzel will do. Like,
he'll do it, and he'll do the same thing.
Oh, it's great though. Like, it's actually, I love it though. I think that just speaks.
That really seems intentional though.
Oh yeah, and that just speaks to him as an actor. He's fantastic. And then some of the things that you see repeated, you're just like, it's.
So I wonder, as actual psychological breakdown of that, if there was a study on it, why is it acceptable for him, but people get fed up seeing like Owen Wilson doing the same stuff all the time? Is it comedy? Is it the genre, or is it?
I think so. I think
it's because in comedy you see that over and over.
Yeah, comedy is really tough. I mean, the stand-up comedian who is in their prime can stand up and deliver, and knows it's funny because they've worked so hard. The comedy writer that's doing a screenplay or a movie, somebody else wrote that, and that's Jon Favreau's interpretation of, you know what I mean? That's Vince Vaughn's interpretation of, and it's like if they're just calling it in, then
sure, yeah. No, for comedians, I think there's two things that they are challenged with, and that's number one, coming up with new material constantly and maintaining relevance, because that's not really an industry where you can dip in and out. It's like where you've been. If once you've been gone, it's like you really lost your social credit, so to speak. Credibility,
you got
power, right? It's like you're not. And then it's hard for someone to have jokes that stand up over time. Like it's interesting that Eddie Murphy's Delirious, and what's his other one? Raw.
Yeah,
you could still watch them today, and you're like, holy smokes! And yeah.
Like Richard Pryor stuff, you can still watch today. Like there's
Carlin. Those are the guys at the very top, right? Obviously,
top of their game.
So actually, can we lead into this? You said that you watched Chappelle. It's a special where he received the Mark Twain Award.
Yes, it's on Netflix. It's fantastic.
Oh, okay, it's an entire documentary about it, or was it the actual award show? Because I heard about this. Yep.
It's so cool.
Okay,
it was.
Cool. I'm going to look for it. Go ahead. Keep.
Yeah, somebody's told me about it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, interesting." And I didn't know about the Mark Twain Award. It was like, I thought, but it is hilarious from start to finish. I thought so anyway. Well deserving. Chappelle is a genius. He is an actual genius, which is so cool. And Neil Brennan, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I knew that they made up and things were good, but he was also on the show and he was hilarious. They talked about the Chappelle Show, his career, how he got started, and
thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, we got to check this out. We got to check out this clip here.
Can you give some background quickly on Neil Brennan?
He was
one of the main writers of Chappelle's Show.
Yes, one of the main writers, creators,
and was he impacted when basically Dave went on his hiatus to Africa, and I guess they stop talking, or?
Yeah, they talk about that. Actually, they joke about that.
Okay.
on the award show, which is really cool because what I took away from that, because so just the background, Neil and wrote Half Baked with Dave Chappelle.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Half Baked. That's it.
Yeah, they were friends, and they talk about how Dave had said, "Hey, if anybody calls you from the studio, just tell them that we're writing something," and they weren't, and so they just kind of took this movie together.
Yeah,
and it just ended up to be what it is. But they joke about it. They're like, "Yeah, this is a horrible movie, whatever." But it was enough to get the start to the Chappelle Show. So,
okay,
even in Neil's, I guess he pays homage to Dave about this, and he's just saying like, "Yes, I was, part of it. I was a partner of this, and I created this, but the genius came from Dave. Like this is, I just showed up, and and I won't give it away because you should watch it." And they talk about him going to Africa and all that stuff.
Oh, okay, cool.
He killed it. Like Neil he was very funny. He was hilarious, actually. Some really good moments in that whole thing. Oh, play something.
This is, I guess, his acceptance speech here.
Thank you. I like not knowing what's going to happen. I like making memories. Sometimes I do all this crazy around my colleagues just so that they can tell their friends I did it. But rather than talk about myself, just briefly, I want to just talk about my genre. Stand-up comedy is an incredibly American genre. I don't think any other country could produce this many comedians. And unbeknownst to many people in this audience, I don't think there's opinion that it exists in this country that is not represented in a comedy club by somebody. Each and every one of you has a champion in the room. We watch you guys fight, but when we're together, we talk it out. I know comics that are very racist, and I watch them on stage, and everyone's laughing, and I'm like, that mother means that.
Jeff Ross too.
Don't get mad at them. Don't hate them. We go upstairs and have a beer. And sometimes I even appreciate the artistry that they paint their racist opinions with. Man, it's not that serious. The First Amendment is first for a reason. The Second Amendment is just in case the first one doesn't work out. We gotta let some air out of the ball, man. The country's getting a little tight. It doesn't feel like it's ever felt in my lifetime. So tonight, I am honored that my colleagues are here in comedy and in music.
Right on. Can you shed some light on the Mark Twain Award and what exactly that is?
You know what? I have no idea why.
Okay, I just read briefly about it.
Well, no, I don't know why Mark Twain. Like somebody decided it's going to be called the Mark Twain Award, but it's given.
Oh, sorry.
That, I want everyone in America right now.
The good comedians that sort of transcend the genre and just appeal, just hilarious. Like it just. You get that they're comedy, and they show Dave's comedy through the years, and it's always geared towards the diversity and coming together. Even though he'll talk about these hot button topics, and a lot of it has helped because they take something that like race in such a hot button thing, but he puts that funny spin on it so that people can look at it in a different way. And I think that is sort of the cornerstone of his comedy. Like the racial draft was hilarious.
Right, the racial draft. We want Tiger Woods. We want
exactly
Owl.
it just
yeah. You give it a context that you can laugh, but you get the message.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. There it is. Mark Twain Award.
Your Prize for American Humor, presented at the JFK Center for Performing Arts since 1998. Named after the 19th century humorist Mark Twain, is presented to individuals who have had an impact on American society in ways similar to Mark Twain. Let's see here. Due to his status as controversial social commentator and his uncompromising perspective of social justice and personal folly. Interesting.
Yes.
Recipients have been in the past. Richard Pryor was the first. Jonathan Winters, Carl Reiner, Whoopi Goldberg, Bob Newhart, Lily Tomlin, Lorne Michaels, Steve Martin, Neil Simon, Billy Crystal, Cosby, Tina Fey, Will Ferrell, DeGeneres, Carol Burnett, Leno, Murphy, Bill Murray, Letterman, Julie Louise Dreyfus, and now Dave Chappelle. Wow, what to be a part of that?
Oh yeah, like that's and here's my biggest takeaway from the whole thing, because again they talked about him walking away from the $50 million from Comedy Central, and a hilarious bit on that. I won't give that away, but everybody knows he walked away from all that money, but he ended up getting something money can't buy, and it's this prestigious award. So it's like,
okay.
Even though everybody's like, why would you walk away from that huge deal? That's career making. Like, why? It's like, well, he held to his principles, and because of that, because he held true, he got this award that is coveted by comedians, across the board. So
it sounds like comedians have that struggle, because we've talked about this before. Really, like in at least 70s, especially 80s, and early 90s, the formula was to use your stand-up comedy to land you a show, a sitcom, right? And that was like the epitome, like the echelon, upper echelon for like a comedian, and comedians can have resentment for other comedians who make it faster than they do, because I've heard before them talk like it's not what's the word? Like your worthiness, your worth, is not necessarily related to your time spent on the craft. like they're because of like a Roseanne and more recently Whitney Cummings. She had two sitcoms on two different networks at the same time. Roseanne Barr was relatively new when she got pulled onto, I think it was Carson, one of the late night shows, and then like it was boom. Late night panel was like your reward because they would have comedians come on to late night, and you might do your 3 to 5 minute set, but the moment you were working for was for Johnny to call you to panel, and then you got that extra airtime. Right. And that's when you arrived, right? No internet, no social. Yeah. It's like, all eyes are on that night show. And it was your make or break moment. And, you could keep going back, but if he didn't call you up, that was not your validation.
Yeah, on the say-so of Johnny Carson, like, if you think about that's incredible. Like, the power and influence that he had over comedy in that era is just incredible. Like, wow.
And today it's very different, right? Like now it would maybe be like a podcast or an internet show or influencers, right? Like if you're interviewed you were both interviewed or the interviewer of a influential person, that can put you up now.
Yes.
Right? Because all eyes aren't necessarily on the 6 o'clock news or the 10:30, 11 o'clock late night show as much.
That's right. And what's interesting is now with the internet, a lot of people aren't staying up for that. They'll just catch the bits, right?
And that's the way it looks highly produced now, like Fallon, Kimmel, and like they do segments so that basically they're just cut up and then thrown onto YouTube. And I think that's where more people watch it.
Yes, because nobody's sitting down late night for an hour anymore.
It's too late. People got stuff to do.
I gotta get up in the morning.
Yeah, can you imagine? Like how soft as a society we become? We can't even watch the late night show live.
I'll catch it tomorrow.
Yeah, right. And so having a Netflix, actually, that's another mark of in a career or notch in a comedian's belt is to get a Netflix stand-up special.
Yes,
on Netflix, right? In particular.
Yes, I see Netflix is really pushing the comedians for the ensemble cast, so they'll get a bunch of the young comedians that are up and coming, and they'll do a special with them, and that'll be the.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Really interesting. So you get
almost like a festival, or put everyone together. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Compilation of Yeah.
So you get like a selection of 5, and they'll play out over a season, right? So it'll be like, oh, cool. So they're all,
Oh, okay. I haven't even seen that. What is it?
I think there's 2 or 3 of them on Netflix. One is called the Stand-Ups, and then another one is, I think it is actually the Stand-Ups season 1 and 2. I can't remember what the other one was called.
Okay. Very cool. And I also wanted to talk about this. You brought up Mark Twain, Dave Chappelle. I wanted to talk about Louis C.K. back in the fold. He released his special on his own website, and it's called Sincerely Louis C.K. So it's
Have you
interesting to see. I haven't seen it yet. I wish I had. I want to play a clip of it, but
okay.
Obviously controversial what happened with him in a time when he was releasing a movie that he self-funded. It was a part of the Me Too movement, and obviously he's going to joke about it, right? And I think in a way it's good to still have that and to be able to look. Obviously there's victims. Whatever happened with that, I'm not sure if there was any legal repercussion or any charges, but I think what those who exposed it were trying to do was to obviously tarnish the reputation and also hinder the success of the movie at the time, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, someone like him, because he's so iconic in comedy as well, I thought it was still good for him to come back.
Oh, yeah.
And have material and not remain silent, right? Because we talk about redemption all the time, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, and not to take away the redemption from, the victims. They
Yeah, exactly. Right.
they need their journey, includes healing and then redemption. But to say that their redemption is to see the destruction of another human being takes away from their own redemption, right?
We've talked about this, yeah, and you so eloquently described it that way, and I couldn't disagree. Want to see a clip? Let's see a clip.
Yes.
Because everybody's waiting for that awkwardness, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, like
Louis C.K. So,
well,
yeah, if you feel someone deserves to have a second chance, I mean, not to say that there's degrees. I mean, people will argue with the degrees of like seriousness, like a Weinstein to Louis C.K. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to justify it, but like he can have a redemption. You know what I mean? A Weinstein cannot.
Well,
can you argue that? Like, I don't know. Like,
it's
he still have the right to work. Like, and can he move on? I don't know.
I think
yeah.
He has to, right? They all have to. I mean, even Weinstein has to move on from the Weinstein.
Well, I suppose, but I mean, he's going to spend the rest of his life in jail.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
like right? Louis can have like a social death. I remember that in Philadelphia. They're talking about discrimination. I'm not trying to make Louis C.K. the victim now, but I just remember in Philadelphia where they were talking about discrimination with respect to HIV/AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
There was a court setting precedent where someone had brought to the Supreme Court wrongful loss of employment because they were saying that with respect to HIV and AIDS, there can be a social death which precedes the actual one. If you remember that, he's in the library, he's studying. This is when Denzel comes over.
Yes.
And this is where they kind of like counselor and like, I'm going to rep you now. Where before I had my reservations, I was scared. But you see like Denzel's like, okay, I firsthand now see the librarian ask, would you feel more comfortable going to a private room on the second floor, sir? And Tom Hanks is like, no, would you? Right? Like, so a classic scene. I love that.
Yes.
Phenomenal acting.
Here's the thing. I think everybody, whether you're famous or not, there's this sort of the individual and then there's society and then they're always at odds, right? It's kind of like you as an individual are entitled to, well, you want to say everything because you are, a free individual, but that gets complicated when you're in society amongst other free individuals. All of a sudden, the group isn't so free, right? So that's always that back and forth about what's acceptable and what's not. So as Louis was joking about The Thing, right? So it's like, as an individual who is not famous, he's entitled to that thing. Right? But as an individual who is famous, is he not entitled to that?
Right.
Ooh.
Right. It's a trial that, by all everybody that's watching, right?
Yeah.
Crazy, interesting, super interesting, and I so enjoy that. I love it, and it's amazing how again every time we do something, it's like, do I have enough to say? Do we have enough plan? From your writing group to Chappelle, like to freedom of speech, right? What a broad range of things that you could correlate it. And it's interesting that they try to teach you this in school, try to make all your points correlate to be interesting and not just anecdotal. And now it just, once you do it long enough, it comes quite naturally. But they really do intertwine here.
Yes, absolutely. Everything we've sort of discussed is all relevant and correlated. Really
the theme like went right across.
Yeah.
And sometimes in ways that you won't foresee until you just kind of bring them up and start talking. Because I feel like as an exercise of preparing for a podcast and chill show now on YouTube and on iTunes and anywhere you get the podcasts, shameless plug there.
That was so smooth.
But you start to exercise in your own mind, like when you're becoming alert for topical news, etc., things that are newsworthy.
Yeah.
You formulate thoughts, and at that time, you store them away. And then now, when we come on, they just like
they're there.
Yeah, it's there. And I think it's so helpful, like in your writing, my work, whatever it is you choose to do. These are skills that you can apply to whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Not just the show.
Exactly, and that's what I think is really cool about what we get to do is that we know, hey, this is a really cool topic I'd love to explore, and the brain stores that information and goes, okay, put that back here, and all this other stuff is going to relate to it somehow. And then when we're, like you said, we barely prepare. We just kind of look a little bit, but then when we get on,
I'm afraid if I over prepare, that what's going to come out is going to feel too overproduced, and it's lacking. And but no, maybe I'm wrong, right? But this is why platforms like this I so cherish, because like we don't have an agenda here, and we won't get pinned with certain news organizations or TV channels. We're coming with our pure organic thoughts, and no one's given us a script of what to cover or what to say.
Exactly.
So there's a vulnerability, and there's so much freedom into that, and I think that's why mediums like podcasting and video now and other social media are just like, they resonate more with the general population, at least those who are engaged and use social and have an interest in what's going on, because people get their news from all kinds of sources now.
I think you have to too. I think before the days of this was my news source, the one source, and those days are long gone. You can't just rely on the one source for your news anymore, because it's it could be biased. You don't know whose narrative you're actually tuning into unless you kind of broaden your scope and take in a bunch of news streams. Like, you have to do that.
Right. Yeah. Unless you identify that, your thoughts are who you are and what you are, and you want to stick to a certain train of thought. And that's why we get attracted to certain ways that news is delivered, certain channels, certain programs, because, you're on the same wavelength with them, and you can't help but agree. So I think that's why people go back and they become fanatical about certain things too. So anyways, that's just like it. I suppose I bring it up every couple episodes, but I always enjoy. Yeah, I've always enjoyed this, and I think hence that's a testament to why we keep doing it. And I'll never let it die. I don't know what it is.
No,
I gotta keep breathing.
So fantastic.
I gotta do something. I can do a podcast. I can record. I'm addicted to recording.
Okay, it sounds like you are ready to go back.
Yeah, I'm ready to go back, and I think that we'll segue that into our next session. Sound good?
Yes.
I think this is a good one for this one, and then we'll come back with more societal and topical news in the next podcast. But let's do a quick sign off, guys. Please follow at CK Bernard, at The Alchemic Way, Christopher Bernard, my lovely, talented, genius, eloquent co-host. I miss my brother. It's been busy. It's been a busy week.
I know. And the incredible Neil Quinto, always fabulous. Like, look at what? I see you on screen, and I'm just like,
it's the lighting. Stop. You
lighting. Great. Don't say it's the lighting, man. It is you. It is your glow. It is your light. It is fantastic. It is warm. I'm feeling it through this computer. It is all you. You are incredible. You are fantastic, and you are the nicest man in the world. I don't care what anybody says.
I'll take it. Fine, I'll take it. I enjoy compliments.
The incredible Neil Quinto, and he is the reason why I'm doing. I do this for you, man. Like, because I love your energy, and I'd love to be in that.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
It's infectious. I love it. So thank you.
I think we do great work. So, but that's us, right? But this is the best podcast show you never heard of.
Until right now. So, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's it. Smash that subscribe button, hit the like, send us a comment, and follow our social because this is what's best for you. Where else are you going to get it?
God, I love it.
Right on. Podcast and Chill, the best podcast you never heard of. Until now, signing off. Thank you
for tuning in, for listening. Amazing.
Love you.
Join us in the next episode.
Yes, next episode coming up shortly. Have a good night, everyone.